Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. The Biden administration is going to be going local to try to improve rural broadband development, as well as other rural initiatives. Be right back. Thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. And the Biden administration has announced an initiative called the Rural Partners Network that I wanted to talk about today. I think I'll first read the press release here. And this is something that's going to impact rural broadband because this is going to provide a better kind of look at the lay of the land, so to speak, locally for federal agencies, and they're all going to hopefully work together through this. It's quite an initiative. It's I don't know if it's overkill or not. You know, I keep seeing the money go out the door, but hopefully this will actually improve the way that these dollars are spent. Biden-Harris administration launches nationwide network of partners to tap resources for rural America. U.S. Department of Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack and the White House Domestic Policy Advisor Susan Rice today announced a new whole of government effort led by USDA to transform the way federal agencies partner with rural places to create economic opportunity in rural America. The USDA-led Rural Partners Network is an all-of-government program that will help rural communities access government resources and funding to create jobs, build infrastructure, and support long-term economic stability. So a lot of this is being driven by all of the money that's available right now, a lot of that for broadband, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of focus on that. Today's announcement is part of the Biden administration's Building a Better Rural Infrastructure Tour, during which Biden administration officials are traveling to dozens of rural communities to talk about the impact of bipartisan infrastructure law investments, as well as President Biden's broader commitment to ensure federal resources reach all communities in rural America. The Rural Partners Network will help communities get funding for investments that create long-lasting benefits for their communities, especially those that have been overlooked in the past. The Rural Partners Network will empower rural communities to get their fair share of federal funds, an important goal for not only economic development, but equity as well. A little background here. It says the network will launch in selected communities in Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, New Mexico, as well as certain tribes within Arizona. Community networks within these states will receive individualized support with the expertise to navigate federal programs, build relationships, and identify additional resources to promote community-driven solutions. Now, this is just the first 5 states announced. Their plan is to go to all 50 states, but you know, that's going to require lots and lots of funding to do that. So they've announced these 5 here in the areas. I'll show a little more detail in another spot on this in just a minute. So each community network will be supported by a Rural Partners Network team to help address the community's specific needs and concerns, building on local assets. Network staff will also be responsible for sharing lessons learned from selected communities with federal agencies in D.C. to ensure rural communities have a voice in policymaking. So really what's going to be different about this is they're going to actually have people on the ground in these states living there, it sounds like. So they're going to have federal employees that are going to be living in these areas and helping them navigate and understand these federal programs and all the dollars that are available and how to make the best use of that. That's always good that we're making good use of the money. It's going to be really expensive, I think, to hire all of these new people, but that's what I guess they're saying, spend some money to save some money. But that is the plan. And, you know, again, they're only be doing this on specific communities in 5 states. So the question is, well, how is that going to help the rest of the country? Well, at least one thing is, as they are working in these communities, they're going to be learning from these communities. That information is going to funnel back to the agencies that are managing these programs to help them maybe better understand rural communities in other areas, because a lot of times rural communities are going to be kind of similar, right? It's not like you've got Alaska and you've got like a state like New York. I mean, there's rural areas in New York, but you know what I'm saying. So you've got rural areas and you've got urban areas, but a lot of these areas that we're looking at here are going to be rural, that are hard to reach kinds of areas. So that's good. The Building a Better America Rural Infrastructure Tour. It's a multifaceted outreach effort involving cabinet and sub-cabinet officials across federal agencies as they travel to learn from key rural communities. These visits will highlight new federal funding and investments already underway through the bipartisan infrastructure law. That's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. A once-in-a-generation investment that will support rural communities and their infrastructure needs. So that's the $1 trillion plus, is it $2 trillion? It might be $2 trillion bill that passed where 65 billion of that is for broadband. So it's a huge infrastructure package, and 65 billion, like I say, of that is broadband. But broadband is still going to be a huge part of this initiative because broadband is what drives so many different things as far as economic development in these communities to help kind of pick them up where they've been kind of let down before. So, and then there's the site that you would go to, which would be rural.gov. I think this is probably a new domain for them. So Rural Partners Network is an alliance of federal agencies and civic partners working to expand rural prosperity through job creation, infrastructure development, and community improvement. And it asks how it's different. The Rural Partners Network introduces a new way of doing business, collaboration among federal agencies meant to improve access to government resources, staffing, and tools. Participating agencies designate key points of contact who focus specifically on rural strategies, improving visibility and attention to rural issues. The Rural Partners Network also puts federal staff on the ground to support designated economically challenged communities. Known as community liaisons, these federal employees provide local leaders with the expertise to navigate federal programs. Community liaisons build or help build relationships and identify additional resources to get the job done. As their work progresses, lessons learned will impact future federal rural policy development and investment strategies. So again, having these people work locally in these rural communities, live in these rural communities as they're doing that, they're better able to provide feedback back to DC on, again, future, not just the current programs, but future programs as well. And now the NTIA has also said, they're the ones managing all of the broadband funds, or really kind of managing most of the broadband funds and then coordinating everybody else on broadband on that 65 billion. They are planning on hiring, they've said, one person per state just in their particular area of, let's say, the BEAD program, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, the 42.45 billion or so dollars that are going to be going for broadband deployment specifically. They are hiring a person per state to try to make sure that the state has a point of contact that has their needs, that understands their needs. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interaction between that person as well as these liaisons on the ground in these 5 states right now, and then they're going to be looking at going to 5 more states maybe by the end of the year. We'll look at that here in just a second. So you see here the community network. So the ones in orange are the ones that right now have been named. So again, you've got Georgia, Mississippi, Kentucky, New Mexico, Arizona, and then where they're planning on doing it next, North Carolina, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Nevada, Alaska, and Puerto Rico right here. So that would be the next round. So they've got your pilot and then your proposed pilot cohort 2 states there. So 1 state and 2 states. I think that's first and second as far as when they're going to be implementing that. And then you've got your networks, again, for these initial states here, these orange ones, you've got where they're going to be working with in those states. So in Arizona, you've got some tribal nations here. In Georgia, my state, down in Southwest Georgia, they've got Georgia Regional Commission, and they've got the counties listed for that. They've got Ben Hill County and City of Fitzgerald there, Fitzgerald, Georgia. And then we've got Manuel County and the City of Twin City. Seems like that should be Cities of Twin City, but the City of Twin City in Emmanuel County, Georgia. Then you got Kentucky, Fulton County, which is where Atlanta, Georgia is here in Georgia, but this is Fulton County, Kentucky. Hickman and Case, and you can see Kentucky Highlands, Washington County, and Mississippi. You got 3 in Mississippi and 3 in New Mexico. And again, this Southwest New Mexico Council of Governments. Those are counties right there. So it looks like different county organizations or conglomerates of counties. And then these are the agencies. So the USDA is funding this. It's coming out of their budget, and they are the ones going to be doing the hiring. But the agencies that are all involved, obviously, you got the executive branch here. You got U.S. Department of Agriculture, Treasury, Interior, Economic Development, Department of Labor, Health and Human Services, Housing, Department of Transportation, Energy, Education, Veterans Affairs, EPA, SBA, Appalachian Regional Commission, Delta Regional Authority, Denali Commission. These are all like, this is Alaska, I believe. Yeah, Alaska, Denali. Northern Border Regional Commission. So you've got these little regional or little commissions, and like Alaska, you've got one there. It's a big area. So these are the, I don't see FCC here, which is interesting, but these are the agencies that are going to be kind of partnering together with these liaisons. And that's it there. And then there's I'll post a link to the news release and to this page. And then on here, there's a link to a fact sheet that goes over a lot of what was in this press release and on this page. There's the rural playbook, which is kind of the Biden administration's kind of playbook for infrastructure. And then you got frequently asked questions, which I did go ahead and pull that up. So I'll link to these first two things, and then you can get to the FAQ here. So FAQ, it talks about the difference between this and what was called the Strike Force Initiative. That was something under the Obama administration. Tom Vilsack, who's the Secretary over Department of Ag right now, was also the Secretary of the Department of Ag with Obama. So it's talking about the difference between this and the Rural Partners Network. So I'm assuming he was instrumental in kind of putting some of this together. It says here, what are the goals and objectives of the RPN here? RNP, I guess it is. Excuse me. The vision is to establish an all-of-government service delivery model to provide coordinated interagency support necessary to bolster rural place-based capacities. USDA RD, state officials, and that's rural development, will hire RPN community liaisons to work with participating RPN community networks who understand the needs of the rural communities to which they are assigned. So again, they'll live there and understand that. So I'm assuming they're going to try to hire locally as well, as opposed to hiring in DC, in the swamp, so to speak, and then moving people out to these areas. It might be better to do a hiring effort in these local communities with people who are stakeholders or are familiar with these kinds of things. You know, maybe somebody who's familiar with infrastructure. It could be a broadband person. It could be water, energy, or something, things like that. So maybe, and their plan is, from where I was reading somewhere else, is 5 to 7 people. 5 to 7 people per area, per state, I should say. How long will RPN remain in operation? Is this a limited time initiative? Almost nothing with the federal government is limited. I mean, once the federal government has its hands on something and they're spending money on something, they don't like to give that up. So the plan here is for this to go on forever, and to get to all 50 states. And obviously it's going to take a while to get to all 50 states if we're just getting maybe 10 launched this year. So it says RPN is a long-term investment of time and human capital designed to help rural communities grow capacity and develop collaboration and partnerships. We know sustainable transformation takes time, and we are committed to ensuring success. What methodology does USDA-RD use to prioritize which states, territories, tribal areas, and their respective communities will be selected to participate in RPN? Since the long-term vision is to implement RPN in every state. To ensure success, USDA-RD is launching RPN in groups of 5 to 7 states or territories, with multiple groups launched each year. Does USDA intend to provide RPN services to other states, territories, tribal areas? USDA intends to implement RPN in additional states, territories, and tribal areas in subsequent years as funding is available. Long-term vision is of RPN implementation in every state. And, you know, obviously there are rural areas in pretty much every state. I mean, there are some that don't have that many, maybe clustered in the Northeast, smaller states kind of thing. But, you know, there are rural areas in every state. But again, they're going to learn as they go through this, and you know, the more of these they deploy, you know, they're going to be learning a lot of what they should be doing in other states from this. What do selected RPN community networks receive? They will, USDA will put in place newly hired full-time rural development staff to help navigate resources. These staff will work collaboratively with the final selected communities to help clarify priorities, identify federal investment opportunities, and connect communities to participating federal agencies. That would be those agencies that I showed before. Purpose to help rural communities take advantage of unprecedented resources. And yes, unprecedented with the amount of money that is coming from this this act. And excuse me. Sorry about that. Pollen count is high today. RPN field staff will be tasked with feeding key information to federal agencies on community needs and barriers to accessing federal resources. Agencies will then take this information and use it to drive policy changes that address the unique challenges faced by rural communities. As a result, RPN will not only support pilot sites, but inform changes that make the federal government better deliver for all rural or communities. So, and it mentioned this is not just for the money that's upcoming, but it also mentioned the American Recovery Plan Act, and I'm sure any other funds, whether it's funds that are still going to be available through maybe USDA Reconnect, for example, because the USDA is managing this. So all of that will be as part of this. Then when will RPN staff be in the field community networks? USDA is currently in the hiring process for RPN staff, with initial hires expected to be in place by the end of May 2022, so pretty quick here. Additional staff anticipated by the end of August 2022. Okay, let's see if I can make it through this. That's my voice. When will you announce the second round of community networks? They expect to make the second round around the end, excuse me, of fiscal year 2022 in late September. Okay. My apologies for coughing fit here. So anyway, this is interesting. So this is kind of new for the federal government as far as lots of money out here. And again, I hope that the goal is to make sure that they're spending this money as efficiently as possible and putting it in the right places, and also providing the support that's needed for these local communities. Again, a lot of this money is going directly to the states, and then the states are working with their local stakeholders in various communities, and that will help, but there does need to be a lot of technical assistance from the federal government on a lot of this money on how to best utilize the resources and what needs to be done to do that. So that's the goal. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it, and hopefully tomorrow my voice will be better. But I will be back tomorrow with a Tech Tuesday, so join me for that. Give me a like if you like this, if it was helpful, and if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button, ring the little bell, and you'll be notified when I'm live. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.